Okay, so I hope you've paused it and done your best to work it out. And I hope that if you did find the right move, you did better than one Matthaus Seibold. So Seibold figured out the right first few moves and then resigned instead of playing the right move that would have kept equality. And then in a second game, played that move and still managed to lose. So rather a tragic story for this poor fellow back in 1931 when he managed to lose two correspondence games after proving equality. So rook e4, this is forced. Okay, knight f7 check is a blunder, not because of bishop f7 when black manages to get himself mated in two moves, but you just go king to g8. And black's also attacking white's queen, and black is up a bunch of material, so this is hopeless for white. So not knight f7 check. After rook e4, we've got to take the rook. And now black plays knight e5. This is the necessary follow-up. And now white has a nice little trick with knight takes d6. So that's kind of a cool move here. And after this, we do not play c takes d6. It looks like it should be fine, but actually c d6, rook to d1, and white regains the piece with a serious advantage. So queen takes d6 is best. Of course, we take on e5 now. And it looks kind of scary, but it's not fatal just yet. Okay, so here there are a couple of options for black. You can play f6. This is really not what I would recommend, though. I mean, you're gonna have some heartburn here if you're playing black, because queen takes, white just trades queens, takes on d5, and has a very important and meaningful extra pawn in the rook ending. So gf is forced, queen h6, king g8. And white could play queen g6, queen h6 and make a draw, but rook to d3 is obviously much more dangerous. I analyzed it a little bit in the PGN, but even at the end of my analysis there, while of course the computer gives triple zeros, it's not going to be a pleasant, easy position for black to hold. So I would avoid this. I would not play f6, even knowing the analysis or some of the analysis. So the better way to go is to do what Seibold did. He played bishop takes a2. Now, it looks a little bit scary, right? You're afraid of getting Spassky fissured with b3, but in fact, there's an even trickier move. So b3 is not a big deal because there's bishop b3, but rook to d6. So this was played in both of Seibold's games, and one of them, he just resigned here. The point is, well, if c takes d6, then we've got that same mate in two we saw before. Queen h6 check, king over, queen g7, and splat. But it's not that bad. And in fact, Seibold in the second game realized, oh, wait a minute, why did I resign? I have queen takes g2, saving my queen and defending the g7 pawn. So a happy ending for Seibold the second time, right? No. Rook to d3, and now he makes a mistake. He goes queen to g1 check, and he lost. King to d2. Okay, so now if queen g6, rook to g3, rook to d8 check, let's say, king c1, and black loses. So instead, he went f6, bishop takes f6. Now, rook e8 would still allow him to put up a fight. You can just check the PGN for the details. But he played rook to f8, and after rook to g3, he went 0 for 2, despite his significant improvement over the old Steinitz game. Well, where did he go wrong? Well, where he went wrong was with queen to g1 check. He had to go queen to h1 check. Now, it's a little surprising because you're leaving the g7 pawn undefended, but it makes sense for a couple of reasons. One is that it lets the queen go back to an important square, and it avoids walking into rook to g3 ideas too. So the payoff for all of this is after king to d2, now queen to c6, and it holds the fort. And it was important to pull the king to d2, both because the king is more exposed there, but also because it's farther from the black bishop on a2. So after b3, there's no worries about king to b2. The king is a little bit too far away now. So f6, bishop takes c7, and now a5 with the idea of a4, and the stranded Fischer bishop. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take a look at game one of the first Spassky-Fischer match, where he played bishop takes h2 on move 29, got the bishop trap, lost it, and lost the game from what had been previous to that capture, a completely drawn position. Anyway, here black will be able to play a4 in time to extricate the bishop. His king side is sufficiently protected, and the game is equal here. Okay, so that is how black draws from here. Rook takes e4, then knight to e5, and so on. But this is not what Steinitz did. He played f6. And this does not hold the game. So bishop takes d5. Now, of course, there's a good rule of thumb that you should capture towards the center, but it's not a very good rule in this position, as h takes g5 is simply checkmate. So that, of course, is not what Steinitz did. He played f takes g5, h takes g5, though, all the same, and black's position is just completely lost here. The immediate threat is rook takes h6 mate. If the king goes to g7, then queen f5 check is either going to drive the king back and then rook h6 is still mate, or g6, well, rook h6 is mate, queen f7 is mate. It's just bad. So there's no way to get out of this except to block the diagonal so that the g-pawn won't be pinned. So Steinitz played knight to e5, and now Winawer finishes in style. See if you can figure out his last move. Although, to be frank, there are many, many winning options for white in any case. But Winawer's move was the best, and it's a nice one. He played g6. And that was it. Steinitz resigns. So the threat is just to play rook h6 check, gh, queen h6 mate, and there's no answer to it. Queen g5, of course, you just take the queen, and you're still threatening the mate. Knight takes g6 not only doesn't help, it makes it an immediate mate with either queen or rook takes because the g-pawn is now pinned. So Steinitz resigned here. It was a massacre. And again, you might say, well, Steinitz just played one bad game. But again, Winawer did beat Steinitz 3 times in their career. He lost more games to Steinitz than he won, but still, beating a world champion 3 times is pretty impressive, period. And Steinitz was still a very, very strong player. He was still one of the absolute best players in the world at this point. So Winawer did have some skills. You know, this guy was not, you know, not just a rank amateur, but 43 in the world. Sorry, that's clearly not correct. But at any rate, a very good player, one who, thanks to the probably misnamed variation in the French, will continue to be a name throughout chess history. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this little history lesson and enjoyed the game too. And, you know, if you play the center game, you might consider 8 bishop to c4 as a little surprise weapon. As, you know, this is a tricky variation. I mean, black has more than one way to come out of this with a good game, but it's also very easy to just stumble into a loss. Even if you know something, right? Even like poor Seibold, who managed to lose twice in an equal position. All right, so that'll do it for this one. Until next time, this is FIDE Master Dennis Monokroussos signing off for ChessLecture.com. Bye-bye.